LG has struggled to find a phone that resonates with consumers on the same level as its competition. But has the powerful LG G2 managed to fill that spot? I'm Andrew with mobileburn.com, here to compare the G2 to the Apple iPhone 5S. The LG G2 and Apple iPhone 5S are different in every way imaginable. The 5S favors a compact build meant to continue the tradition of small phones with small screens designed for portability. It also has an aluminum body that's flat and feels wonderful to hold, though somewhat light. There's a power button at the top and volume buttons to the side to complete a meticulous, minimal design. The G2, on the other hand, turns tradition on its head. The flanks of the phone are obstruction-free because LG places all of the important buttons at the back of the device. It's a very unique style of operation, and it quickly becomes adaptable because fingers feel naturally comfortable there. The glossy plastic finish is not something to rave about at all, but most will be able to tolerate the slimy texture and still find the phone easy to manage despite its larger size. The difference in size also translates to a big positive in LG's favor. The 5.2-inch IPS 1080p HD display looks absolutely gorgeous, bright, and has some color tuning to make the G2 have the benefits of higher saturation without the negative effects of darkness and off-color tinting. The 5S, on the other hand, has a 4-inch Retina display that's also bright, beautiful, and without flaws when it comes to the quality of the display or the number of pixels shown. Where the G2 gains its edge is in the obvious size difference. For watching videos or playing games, that extra inch of display area goes a long way, making it clear that when things mostly being equal in terms of quality, the size advantage makes the G2 more appealing for a screen. Things are less clear-cut when it comes to software. The G2 runs an LG-optimized version of Android 4.2, while the 5S runs Apple's latest and not exactly flawless iOS 7. The G2 is packed with demo-friendly, though not always practical features. For instance, QSlide lets users run mini apps that float above other activities, allowing for a kind of multitasking without flipping back and forth between apps. Someone needing to check a calendar to see if an upcoming event conflicts with previous commitments can do that more easily on a G2 than they would on a 5S. The frequency of such a feature is probably low, but it's still beneficial to have in a pinch. iOS 7 lacks the dual app display system, but it has shortcuts to more commonly accessible features like turning settings on and off, launching apps, controlling brightness, and seeing your notifications, just like you can do on the G2. The difference is that iOS splits that into two separate sections, so they look more refined than the cluttered approach taken by LG's take for Android. Neither system is perfect, but honestly, LG's is a little too much going on in one place. iOS 7 has a simpler approach compared to LG's take on Android, which has far more bells and whistles than most users would care to have. There aren't multiple ways to do one thing, just one way to accomplish something. This works in some areas, like having a fast and reliable browser with multiple tabs, history, private browsing, and several other features, things that you can also get on the G2. But this works against you because if you don't like that browser, you can't replace it by default. The same is true with the keyboard. The keyboard is very fast and does a good job of autocorrection, and I'd much rather have that than the ugly and less effective keyboard on the G2. But at the same time, the G2, by virtue of running Android, gives the option of downloading the standard Android keyboard or paying more money to get a superior option like SwiftKey. The 5S also includes a number of utility apps for notes and reminders, but the G2's cup runneth over with such apps. There are multiple apps for notes and memos, and with each app is a subset of options that allow for the creation of more diverse notes that can include text, video, photos, audio, all in one place. It can occasionally be frustrating to have to manage those many options and remember where you put one thing versus another, but it can be beneficial to have them depending on your needs. The 5S, on the other hand, will try to focus users into niche apps that handle specific tasks and handle them well. LG's VoiceMate uses voice recognition to turn on settings, auto-dial contacts, and search for answers online. It's not what I would describe as desirable, which is a nice way of saying that it sucks. But you can use Google Now to do those same things, as well as launch some apps, send text messages without touching your phone, and searching the web. The iPhone 5S counters with Siri, which can do many of those same things, but it can also turn off Bluetooth or Wi-Fi using your voice. You can then use Google for iOS to supplement some of the Google Now features, though you won't get the same level of notifications and integration that you get with Android. Both phones have software designed to improve and edit photos. They offer similar options and can introduce ready-made filters, cropping and rotating, and providing other automatic enhancements. The iPhone 5S gallery is superior in this regard, and there are far more and better third-party options for photo productivity on the 5S than there are on the G2. And while we're on the subject of photos, let's make a quick comparison between the two cameras. The LG G2 has a 13 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization that helps reduce blur. The Apple iPhone 5S has a 5 megapixel camera with 1.5 micron pixels that capture more light and do well in poorly lit areas. The G2 has an LED flash, and the 5S has a dual tone LED flash that aims to have more balance when taking a photo. When you compare the two photos taken with each device, you'll notice that both are above average cameras. You really won't notice the difference between the two until you get down to close-ups and try to determine which offers more. On the software side of things, the G2 offers more options and has an intelligent auto mode that does a fairly good job of taking photos in pretty much any situation. The 5S has less options, but its own version of the intelligent auto mode is just as good. And when it comes to HDR photography, the iPhone 5S is much faster than the G2. Be sure to follow the link in the descriptions below so you can see more photo samples and determine which you think will give you better pictures. Now, when it comes to comparing the total package of the iPhone 5S and the G2, you can really only separate them by priority. Does someone want a phone with a clearly defined purpose that does a good job in most cases? Or would that person like the option of having a supercharged set of tools that are not as polished, but are more plentiful? The latter sums up the G2 in a nutshell. It's so full of options that you can even use a built-in IR blaster to control a television and cable box. The G2 is a clear choice for the power user, someone who wants his or her phone to be everything all the time in one place. The iPhone 5S is a choice of the quote-unquote average consumer who cares more about being able to navigate a phone without roadblocks, an ugly interface, or extra work to make things usable. Obviously, there's some overlap between the two, but more often than not, the simplicity of the iPhone 5S and the expansion possible thanks to its world-class App Store will make many believe that this outshines the LG G2 in many software cases. LG's Android UI is more troublesome and not as good as default, but it has the upside of improvement and ability to adapt to someone's needs. With a beautiful screen and a longer battery, the G2 is a more capable device than the iPhone 5S. This concludes the comparison between two of the hottest phones on the market at the moment. I hope this video has been helpful, and if so, feel free to click like and subscribe to see more videos in the future. Until next time, thanks for watching.